Leah Calron woke before dawn, her breath catching at the cold air that sifted through the cracked window of her small home. Outside, the sky was a dull gray, and the few remaining plants in her garden drooped as if in deep sorrow. She crept past her 2 sleeping children, careful not to wake them. Each morning, she watched the world grow weaker around them, air that tasted stale, water that left a bitter film on her tongue, and food that barely filled empty stomachs. In the kitchen, Leah stirred a thin porridge over a dim heater. She glanced at the faded photograph on the wall, where her children's bright smiles reminded her of better times. She closed her eyes, willing herself to hold on to hope. But today, hope felt like a distant memory. Today, she knew she had to act. Her youngest Mira stirred at the table. "Mama?" she asked, her small voice trembling. Leah forced a soft smile. "Yes, little one?" Mira pointed to the empty bowl. "More porridge?" Leah's heart tightened. "I'm sorry, sweetie. This is all we have." Myra's brother, Yalin, looked up from his own bowl and reached for his sister's hand. Leah knelt beside them and brushed Myra's hair back. "We will find help today," she promised, though the words felt fragile. After a quick wash with the last of their precious water, Leah gathered her children's coats. She led them out into the broken streets, where dusty buildings leaned like tired giants. The town's central hub lay a mile away alow. Domed structure where the colony council met and where travelers sometimes arrived, Leah had never been there before, but now it was her only chance. As they walked, Leah's mind spun with fear. What could she offer in return for food, water, and shelter? She was just one person with no special skills or wealth, yet she felt a fierce determination rise inside her. If she offered herself her freedom or her service, maybe the council would spare her children. They reached the hub at midday. Few officials stood behind a simple desk, their faces etched with tired lines. Leah's heart pounded as she approached. She held Mira close and placed a gentle hand on Jalen's shoulder. "I am Leah Calron," she began, voice steady despite her fear. "My home is failing. My children have nothing to eat, nothing to drink. I beg you to help them." One of the officials, a tall woman with silver-streaked hair, studied Leah silently. She tapped a pen. "Where resources are limited," the woman said, "we prioritize those who offer service in return." Leah swallowed hard. She nodded. "Understand? I offer myself as a guide. I know the old tunnels beneath the colony where water still drips and plants survive in hidden pockets. I will show you every resource I know." Mira whimpered and clung to her mother. Leah brushed her daughter's hair again and forced herself to speak. "If you save them, I will do everything you ask." Another official frowned. "Your offer is unusual. Guides are usually trained and prepared for danger." Leah squared her shoulders. She had no special training, but she knew her home like the lines on her palms. "I will learn. I will work harder than anyone. I only ask that you save my children." Silence fell. The sun moved low in the sky, and the once bright courtyard dimmed under the growing clouds. Leah's heart felt as though it might break, yet she held her ground. Her children looked at her with trusting eyes, and in that moment her fear turned to fierce hope. Finally, the woman with the pen spoke again. "Very well, we will discuss your offer. Return tomorrow at first light. If the council agrees, your children will receive aid. If not, you must accept our decision."
I
bowed her head. "Thank you." As she led Mira and Yalin away, Leah felt a fragile hope blossom inside her chest. She knew the coming night would be long, and sleep would evade her. But she would not rest until her children were safe. Tomorrow, she would return. Tomorrow, she would make the council see that a mother's love could light even the darkest world. Night fell quietly over the colony, as Leah Calron lay awake on a thin cot in her modest room. The last embers of the day's light slipped beyond the horizon, leaving the sky a deep indigo. Outside, the wind whispered through broken windows, carrying with it the faint scent of dust and dried leaves. Leah's children slept nearby, huddled under ragged blankets. Mira's soft breathing rose and fell in a steady rhythm, and Jalen's arm curled protectively around his sister. Leah stared at the ceiling, mind racing with thoughts of tomorrow's meeting. She rose on careful feet and crossed the room to the small window. The colony lay still beneath the growing moon, its streets empty of life. Buildings stood like silent sentinels, their pale walls glowing in the soft light. Leah's heart ached with worry. She breathed deeply, focusing on the memory of her children's laughter earlier that day. That memory gave her strength. She smiled, quietly promising herself she would do everything she could to protect them, late into the night. Leah practiced what she would say. She pressed her hands against her chest and repeated her words like a chant. "I offer myself," she whispered. "I know the tunnels. I will guide you." Each time she spoke, her voice grew stronger. Soon her own words felt like armor against her fear. When exhaustion finally claimed her, she sank onto the cot and slept, dreaming of flowing water and hidden green springs. At dawn, a pale light crept through the window. Leah woke to a soft knock at her door. Her heart jumped as she moved toward the sound, brushing stray hairs from her face. She opened the door to find a tall man in a clean uniform. His shoulders were broad, and his eyes held a curious light. Leah started at his presence. She had not expected a visitor. "Good morning," the man said, bowing his head slightly. His voice was calm, with a gentle tone. "I am Commander Marcus Reyes of the Human Envoy. I've come at the Council's request to meet you." Leah blinked. In surprise, she knew humans rarely came to this world. Most news spoke of distant star lanes and trade. She stepped aside, motioning for the commander to enter. Inside, Mira and Yalan stirred at the sound of voices. They sat up, rubbing sleep from their eyes. Leah knelt and smiled. "Children, this is Commander Reyes," she said softly. "He wishes to speak with us." Jalen's eyes grew wide, and Mira's small hand reached for her mother's. The commander crouched to their level and offered a gentle smile. "Good morning," he said. "I have heard of your bravery." Leah's cheeks warmed at the compliment. She led them to a simple table and offered stale rolls and diluted tea. The commander accepted with thanks. As he sipped, he observed the modest room, noting the stacked supplies and worn clothing. Leah felt her nerves tighten. She had hoped to prove herself, but now he was here. She felt suddenly unprepared. Marcus set his cup down and met her eyes. "Your offer is bold," he said. "A mother offering herself is rare. Tell me why you chose this path." Leah took a breath. "My children deserve to live. My home has failed. I cannot beg for their safety without giving something in return. I know the tunnels beneath our colony. If I guide your crew, you can access hidden stores of water and air." Marcus nodded slowly. "You speak with calm resolve. That is good. But these tunnels hold risks. They're dark and narrow. Only those who know them well can navigate safely." Leah's heart fluttered. She had expected doubt, but she held her ground. "I have walked those tunnels since I was a child," she said. "I know every turn. I can lead your crew to the sources." The commander studied her for a long moment. Then he smiled. "Very well," he said. "I will speak with the council and present your offer alongside mine. I believe together we can help your children and others in need." Relief swelled in Leah's chest. She nodded, gratitude shining in her eyes. Marcus stood, offering her a respectful bow. As he left, Leah returned to her children and hugged them tightly. The morning sun spilled across the room, warming her face. For the first time in a long while, she felt hope bloom inside her. She would not rest until her promise was fulfilled. And tomorrow's journey would prove her heart was stronger than any fear. Leah stood at the edge of the tunnel entrance as the human crew gathered behind her. Commander Reyes watched quietly, his arms folded. The morning sun cast long shadows across the rocky ground. Leah took a steady breath and turned to face the small team. Each member carried a light and wore sturdy boots. She offered a gentle nod. They stepped forward together into the cool darkness. The air inside the tunnel was damp and smelled faintly of moss. Leah's flashlight beam danced across rough stone walls streaked with mineral veins. She paused at a fork in the passage. "This way," she called softly, pointing to the left. The crew followed her trusting footsteps. Mira and Yalin stayed behind under a caregiver's watch, safe at the entrance until supplies were secured. As they moved deeper, water dripped from above, forming tiny pools on the uneven floor. Leah led them past narrow ledges, where one wrong step could mean a fall. She kept her voice calm and low. "Watch your step here," she warned before a drop of 2 feet. A crew member adjusted his light and edged forward carefully. Leah's steady guidance built their confidence. After a quarter-mile, the tunnel opened into a cavern lit by bioluminescent plants. The faint glow revealed shallow pools of clear water. Leah knelt and scooped some into a small container. "This water is pure," she explained. "It runs from a spring above ground that still flows." The humans murmured in wonder. One technician tasted it and smiled, amazed at its sweet freshness. They walked on to find patches of green ferns and moss clinging to walls. Leah pointed out edible roots that cleaned the air as they grew.
Yes.
"These plants can survive here because of the constant moisture," she said. The crew took samples, noting how they might cultivate them above ground. Leah felt pride swell in her chest. Her knowledge of this hidden world was proving vital. Suddenly, a low rumble echoed through the cavern. Rocks shifted at the far edge, startling the crew. Leah raised her hand. "Stay calm," she said, her voice steady. The rumble faded as quickly as it came. She studied the walls and saw faint cracks. "A minor quake," she said. "It's not dangerous, but a reminder these tunnels live and change." The humans nodded, respect in their eyes. They pressed forward to the next chamber, where ancient stalactites hung like silent guardians. Water dripped from their tips, splashing into a reflecting pool below. Leah paused to admire the scene. "Places stood for centuries," she said softly. "It reminds me that life endures, even in darkness." The crew listened, moved by her words and the beauty around them. At the far end, Leah pointed to a rocky shelf covered in small crystal formations. "These crystals help filter water naturally," she explained. The team collected a few specimens. Each piece glinted as their lights moved across it. Leah smiled as she watched the humans work with ease. Their trust in her guidance felt like a quiet victory. When they turned back toward the tunnel entrance, Leah felt a warm glow of accomplishment. She had led them safely, shown hidden resources, and faced fears together. Commander Reyes walked beside her, his expression thoughtful. "You have more courage and wisdom than most guides," he said quietly. Leah met his gaze and nodded, her heart full of quiet pride. As they stepped into sunlight, the world outside seemed brighter. Leah knew this journey was only the beginning. Supplies they gathered would save many lives, and her offer had become more than a simple guide's duty. It was a bridge between worlds. She looked ahead at the waiting children and crew, ready for the next step in their shared story. Leah led the human crew and their samples back toward the tunnel entrance. The weight of the crystal specimens and plant clippings was small compared to her pride, but each piece meant hope for her people. Sunlight filtered through the tunnel. Mouth and the damp air gave way to a gentle breeze. Leah paused to let the humans adjust to the brightness. Commander Reyes stepped forward and offered her a respectful nod. Leah returned it and signaled the group to move on. Outside, the colony looked different than when Leah left. Children played near the hub's entrance, their laughter blending with the morning bird song. Leah felt a warm glow at their joy. Hundreds of colonists gathered around the unloading area, curious about the samples the humans carried. Leah could see hope in their faces. She led the crew to a raised platform where the council sat in silent judgment. Her heart beat fast, but she stood tall, a council elder. The woman with silver-streaked hair rose and addressed the commander. "Commander Reyes, what have you learned?" The commander glanced at Leah, then spoke with clear confidence. "Thanks. To Leah's guidance, we found fresh water, air-purifying crystals, and hardy plants. He gestured to the containers. These resources can sustain the colony and help us replenish our stores. The elder studied the samples, her eyes widening. At the glowing crystals, one technician poured water into a transparent tube. The council watched as it cleared instantly, free of impurities. A murmur spread through the crowd. Leah felt Yolan slip his hand into hers. She squeezed it gently. Mira stood on her tiptoes to see the crystals. Leah lowered herself to hug her daughter. "We will be safe," she whispered. Mira hugged back, relief shining in her eyes. The council elder rose again. "Your offer was brave, Leah Calron. You risked much to guide these strangers." Leah bowed her head. She thought of her promise to work for the colony. But before she could speak, Commander Reyes raised a hand. "Leah's service goes beyond guidance. Her knowledge is vital." He turned to Leah. "You've shown us a hidden world. We owe you more than freedom." Leah's chest tightened with emotion. The commander addressed the crowd. "Colony members, today we faced a choice. Save lives or guard resources. Leah taught us that one mother's love can inspire great change. I propose we not only grant her children safe passage, but also invite Leah to join our efforts in exploring and restoring your world." A hush fell. Leah stared at him, stunned. She had expected gratitude, but this offer was more than she imagined. Council Elder exchanged glances with other members. Then she nodded slowly. "By our laws, your family is safe. And in recognition of your service, Leah Calron, you are welcome to become an official envoy, our liaison with the human missions." Cheers rose from the crowd. Leah blinked back tears as the council's decree was read aloud. Children clapped and colonists smiled broadly. Leah felt as though her heart might burst with joy. Commander Reyes stepped forward and placed a simple medal on Leah's chest, a symbol of partnership and trust. He held her gaze and said softly, "Thank you for believing that help was possible." Leah looked at her children, tears streaking her cheeks, and then at the commander. "Thank you," she replied, her voice steady with hope. Around them, the colony buzzed with renewed purpose. Leah realized her offer had sparked something bigger than herself. Together, humans and colonists would rebuild, and a mother's love would lead the way. The sun was high as Leah walked through the colony's market square. For the first time in months, laughter and music returned to the air. Small vendors reopened their stalls and children ran past carrying slices of fresh fruit. The mood felt lighter, almost like the early days before the drought, before everything began to fade. Leah held Mira's hand as Yalan skipped a few steps ahead. Both children had more energy. Now clean water and healthy food had returned to their daily lives. Leah could still hardly believe it. Just a few days ago she had been begging the council to spare them. Now she was being called Leah of the tunnels by the younger ones, a name that made her smile every time she heard it. Commander Reyes walked beside her, hands tucked behind his back. "The new purification stations are working better than expected," he said, nodding toward a shining machine near the square's edge. Clear water poured gently into a long basin as people filled containers. "Your maps helped us place the system exactly where it would draw from the underground." Leah felt a quiet pride grow in her chest. "It was knowledge passed from my grandmother," she said, "but no one listened before." "They're listening now," Reyes said with a soft smile, "because you spoke with courage." They reached a bench near a tree that had started to bloom against thin branches holding tiny green leaves. Leah and the commander sat while Mira and Yalan played nearby. For a moment, all felt peaceful, but Leah's thoughts wandered. "Do you think this will last?" she asked softly, watching Mira giggle as Yalan spun her in a slow circle. "Peace, ... hope, ... all of this." Reyes looked thoughtful. "Lasting things are built slowly," he said. "It's strong." He picked up a small stone and tossed it gently. "Even the smallest stone creates ripples." Leah smiled. "Then I'll keep making ripples." That afternoon, the human crew gathered for a planning meeting, and Leah sat at the round table as an equal map spread across the surface and lights blinked on digital devices. Technicians from both the colony and the human ship worked side by side. They asked Leah to point out more forgotten places, old paths, sealed vents, dry wells that might hold secrets. She marked each one with careful hands, her fingers steady. She told stories, too, of how the tunnels once held music festivals, or how a lost boy had once been found near a glowing root system. The crew laughed and listened, writing down everything. A young human officer leaned forward. "How do you remember so much?" "I walked the tunnels when I was sad," Laya answered. "They were my safe place." Later, after the meeting, Yalin brought her a drawing he had made. It showed a stick-figure version of Laya holding a glowing crystal, standing at the mouth of a tunnel. Above her was a bright sun, and beside her were people of many shapes and sizes. At the bottom he had written, "My mama saved everyone." Leah hugged him tightly, her eyes wet with tears. That evening the colony held a quiet gathering near the fields. Lights strung across poles gave a soft golden glow, and families brought small offerings, bread, fruits, even songs. A local singer performed a gentle tune about kindness and strength. The air was cool, but hearts were warm. When Laya stood up to speak, the crowd grew silent. "I didn't do this alone," she said. "I only asked for help, and someone listened. It's all it takes to begin change. One voice, one act of trust." People clapped, and the music played again as the stars appeared overhead. Leah sat beside her children and Commander Reyes. She looked around at her world, healing, growing, smiling, and deep inside, she felt something powerful. It wasn't just survival anymore. It was the beginning of a new story. Morning light spread softly over the colony as Laya stood near the newly built learning center. It was still under construction, but already the walls stood strong, painted with hopeful colors. Inside, children's voices echoed as they read from digital tablets and wrote stories on recycled paper. Leah smiled as she watched from the doorway. Myra and Yalin sat at the front of the class. Mira raised her hand excitedly to answer a question, while Yolan helped a younger boy with his reading. It was a scene Laya had once only dreamed of, her children learning, playing and growing without fear. Commander Reyes approached quietly. From behind, "You've made this possible," he said. Leah turned and gave him a humble smile. "We made it possible. Together." They walked side by side through the colony's heart, passing small gardens where families grew herbs and vegetables. The air smelled fresh now, and birds had returned to nest in the rooftops. It was hard to believe how much had changed in just a few weeks. Reyes pointed to a group of workers installing solar panels on the old rooftops. "With these, we'll have enough energy to power clean air systems in every home." Leah nodded. "People are sleeping better now. The air no longer feels heavy. Even the nights feel peaceful." They stopped at the central plaza, where a large tree stood surrounded by benches. Children played tag beneath its branches, and elders watched with contented smiles. A small memorial stone had been placed at the tree's base, etched with words that read, "To those who gave hope when there was none." Leah stared at the stone. "Didn't expect to be part of something so big," she said softly. Rhea sat beside her. "That's how change begins, with one heart choosing kindness." Handed her a folded note. Laya opened it slowly and read the message written in simple handwriting. "Invitation to Earth-Human Alliance Cultural Exchange Program." Her eyes widened. "Is this real?"
Yes,
Rhea said. "The Council believes you can help others across different worlds. You've seen what people need when they're close to losing everything. You understand what kindness looks like when it matters most." Leah held the paper close. "But I'm just ... me. You're someone who changed everything without lifting a weapon, without demanding anything. That's the kind of strength others need to learn from." She looked down at her hands. They were rough and calloused, shaped by years of hard work and sacrifice. Now, they would shape something new, connection between worlds. That night, Laya sat with her children under the stars. The sky sparkled brighter than she remembered, as if the stars themselves were listening. "Mama," Yalin said, leaning against her, "are we really going to fly in a spaceship?" Leah laughed softly. "Yes, we've been invited to a place called Earth." Mira clapped her hands. Will there be trees like ours? And birds? There will be trees even taller, Leia said, and oceans that stretch beyond the horizon. Jalen's eyes widened. Will we come back? Yes, Leia said, brushing his hair gently. We will return and share what we learn. This will always be our home. A gentle breeze passed through the grass, carrying the scent of blooming flowers. Nearby, neighbors sang a soft evening song. It was a melody of hope. Of unity, Commander Reyes joined them a moment later, handing Yalin a small model of a ship. A gift, he said, smiling. It's called the Harmony. Yalin turned it in his hands. Is that the one we'll fly in? Reyes replied. And your mother will be its guide. Leia felt her heart fill with pride, not for what she had done, but for what her children would now see. A universe full of chances, friendships, and light. She looked up at the stars once more. A new journey was beginning. The day of departure arrived with golden sunlight spilling across the colony's rooftops. Families gathered near the landing field, watching with wide eyes as the sleek silver ship Harmony rested gently on its landing platform. Its surface reflected the sky above and the faces below, as if it belonged to both Earth and this world. Leia stood quietly beside her children, one hand resting on Jalen's shoulder and the other holding Mira's small fingers. Around them, friends and neighbors came to say goodbye, some offering flowers, others sharing small baked gifts wrapped in cloth. You'll come back, won't you? Asked an old woman with kind eyes. She had once shared her last piece of bread with Leia during the hardest days. Leia smiled and nodded. Yes, we'll come back. We won't forget this place. Commander Reyes waited near the ship's entrance, speaking softly with crew members and making final checks. His calm presence gave the people comfort. Though many had once feared humans would ignore them, Reyes had proved that humans could be kind, patient, and full of heart. Children waved goodbye to Mira and Yalin, some shouting, bring stories from the stars. Mira giggled and waved back, her small backpack bouncing on her shoulders. As Leia approached the ship, she turned for one last look at her home. The garden beds were full again. The learning center stood tall. The plaza trees' leaves fluttered in the wind. All of it had changed not just because of what she had done, but because others had chosen to believe in something better. She thought back to the first day she stood in front of the council, offering herself in exchange for her children's safety. It felt like a different lifetime. She had not lost anything that day. She had gained a chance to give more than she imagined. Reyes walked over and gave her a nod. We're ready when you are. Leia looked at her children. Are you ready, my loves? Yes, Mira chirped. I want to see Earth. Yalin smiled. Do they have tunnels there, Mama? Leia laughed softly. If they do, we'll find them. They stepped aboard the ship, and the door closed behind them with a gentle hum. The halls were clean and quiet. Crew members greeted them with warm smiles and respectful bows. The command center held a wide window, where the sky stretched in every direction. The ship lifted smoothly from the landing pad. Below, the colony grew smaller and smaller. The plaza, the tree, the learning center all became shapes and colors. And then just memory. Jolene leaned close to the window. We're flying, he whispered. Mira pressed her face to the glass. The clouds looked like cotton. Commander Reyes approached and handed Leia a tablet. These are your duties as cultural envoy. You'll help us understand other colonies like yours, teach us how to listen before we act. Leia accepted the tablet with both hands. I'll do my best. He smiled. That's more than enough. Hours passed as the stars brightened and the ship glided smoothly through space. Dinner was served in a cozy hall where humans and colonists sat side by side. Mira and Yalin made new friends quickly, giggling over space fruits and juice that bubbled in their cups. Later that night, Leia stood alone near the viewing deck, staring out at the stars. She thought of her grandmother, who had once told her stories of the sky, but never got to see it this way. She whispered, "We made it," and smiled softly. Commander Reyes joined her, standing silently beside her. You did more than save your children, he said quietly. You reminded all of us what real courage looks like. Leia looked at him, her eyes calm and full of peace. I only did what any mother would do, he nodded. But the way you did it changed everything. As the ship soared toward Earth, Leah knew this was not the end of her journey. It was the beginning of something far greater, a story of trust, love, and how even one small voice can echo across the stars.